Alright, let's go pay a visit to Queen Zephyr.
So, now that we're, this far into the game, I've actually been looking back at some of our older parts to refresh myself on some aspects of the game here and there. And I do think that it would be a bit of an interesting time to maybe analyze how some things may have affected stuff.
Hey, please. I said this way!
She's only introduced into the. Basically, you're supposed to enter that chamber to actually greet Queen
But I don't
Zephyr,
feel
but
like doing that now.
but there's no fun in that.
Long
Let's talk.
ago, I've
Yeah,
heard
go
that a
ahead.
lone choo-choo was taken from the town by wise men. I haven't heard what happened after that. I hope that choo-choo is doing well.
I wonder who we're referring to. But let's talk to the nobility of Shevat. Why not? Because you might learn a thing or two. Go ahead, Pedro.
After the war and the collapse of Diablos, similar to the land dwellers, the heavily beaten. Oh, wait, this is an old lady, isn't it? The heavily beaten
Is it?
Solaris, taking along with them vast numbers of land dwellers as slaves. After the brief moment of wow, Solaris once again began to reign over our lives. A cold and harsh era had begun. You see, back in my day, this would never happen. 500 days have passed and the reign still continues. No one knows how long this is going to last. Ah, well.
Go ahead, Lives.
Those giants which fought long ago to save us, an existence which surpasses all other Metal Gears. They are the legendary Omni-Gears.
A
One
weapon
of them is
truly
the
to
treasure of
surpass
the
Metal
Arthur
Gear.
royal family I'm talking here, which is currently resting somewhere within the continent of Ignis. But I can't guarantee you. Basically, Jova, this guy really hates being interrupted. In fact, kind of overly hates.
So,
Because of the
I don't
power
know,
of these
okay,
giants
there's
created
safety voice.
through God's wisdom, Ronnie, Fatima, and the other young fighters piloted these giants and destroyed the heart of Diablos. Also, as soon as you met my clone that's right there, seeing an opportunity to counterattack, mankind desperately did, and successfully annihilated them. So, yeah. Ronnie, Fatima, Queen Zephyr, and the rest of the young ones put their lives on the line and won back. The future for this world.
Alright, these guys.
Yes, well,
Diabolos, the sudden disappearance of mysterious army, put a full stop to the battle between the humans 500 years ago. Those angels of death, utterly unrivaled, with no fear of mercy. Their only intention was to eradicate all life on this planet. Even Solaris' proudest gear battalions were mere toys to them. Nothing stopped them as they indiscriminately slaughtered, trampled upon countless lives. At that time, people were certain that the end of the world was approaching. Dominated by feelings of constant fear and hopelessness, it was a dreadful life.
And all because someone decided to rob that lamp.
Sure.
What?
Go ahead,
Diablos.
Jonah.
The great.
So-
It was a heroic battle. The freedom and independence of the land dwellers at stake. The rebel army, which centered around Shevat, was successful at attacking the inner citadel of Solaris, but only with tremendous sacrifices. However, before we almost made it, the unthinkable happened. A new enemy appeared that even Solaris had not anticipated. That was when the nightmare began. A nightmare that we pray we would never have to see again.
We'll see. Go ahead, Lives.
At one point, Solaris and his Gainesville ministry dominated the world with more military might than they have presently. People on the land were treated like slaves. If any of them resisted, they were quickly and mercilessly dealt with. They treated the people as if they weren't living beings.
They still do.
Eventually, people on the surface began to rebel from all parts and ultimately led to the Solaris-Shevat War of 500 years ago.
And sorry, Kitty. The information that you need to know is that what that person mentioned was that the ministry was composed by 12 people. Although from what we have seen from those nameless sprites that Pedro mentioned, they seem to be a bit less than before. More on that for later. These NPC talks is mostly just about the shield that protects Shevat, that makes sure Solaris doesn't do anything particularly nasty for the time being, so we could skip that. Let me see.
After the
Go ahead.
war, Solaris used a gate, like ours, to separate itself from the surface. And then they erased all memory of their existence from the surface dwellers Due to this, the surface dwellers are still not aware that they've been secretly dominated by Solaris the whole time. To be born into a false reality, to grow up in it, and die in it without ever approaching the truth. That is the life of a surface dweller. Hello, Matrix vibes.
It's basically, don't worry, I can skip this. This is basically, again, one of the ultimate confirmation from one of the early parts of the game. If you pay attention, you will know that the people of Ava and Kislev live in constant ignorance. Again, they even forgot the war they were fighting for, basically. And it seems that the ethos was also helping that, being, basically a surrogate for Solaris, and doing exactly that to keep them in check while scavenging the best gear parts to send to Solaris themselves, So it seems intentional, but for what ultimate purpose? I know that the easy answer is this, because again, Solaris is basically flying Nazis, but it's sadly even deeper than that. I know that you say that you can ask how deeper can it go, but don't worry.
I wouldn't be surprised
there
if
is
this
an
has to
answer.
do with that opening cutscene we saw.
Well, again, Drova, we're still far away from explaining that, don't worry. But on that note, don't worry, we can ignore this kind of dialogue unless I mention something important. Go ahead.
So,
I was saying. Sorry. Go on.
So, looking back, yeah, for as much as we do joke about the fact that Richard Mark Honeywood was doing this on his own, we do partly have apparently the game to blame for this, thing is how the main reason a lot of people walked out is because, well, let's be honest, the religion bashing in this game is not subtle at all, and I can actually get how that may have turned some people off here and there. What I'm getting
Again, Drova, I can assure you still don't know all the informations. Once you do, you might be inclined to not necessarily redact that statement, but to have a more justified way of saying it.
Even so, regardless of how overly bashing this game may be, that's still unprofessional to just quit the job right there just because of a reason like that.
To be fair, it wasn't like they just outright quit, but they asked to be moved off the project more so. And again, look, if that's how they feel about it, then that's their right to, not want to work on something.
True, that is true, Jova, but leaving just one person to work there unconsciously is a fault of both the company for literally not finding anyone else, but also for the translators themselves for allowing that to happen and not even, asking Richard to also quit if he wanted to quit himself or not.
To be
As
fair,
we learned from the interview, he had his own reservation, apparently, so...
Okay, I'm definitely pinning the blame more on the company there because the individual has their own right here and there. And again, if something really does make you that uncomfortable here and there, then yes, it is your right to leave it in that regard here and there. Also, this is definitely more a thing on Square, though, for not getting a team on this, though. And as you yourself did mention during the opening, a lot of this game's faults can be blamed on Square kind of shortchanging the game, essentially, and causing the creator of this game to have to do out from it. I will say this, though, I am definitely seeing what you mean about this game being somewhat a victim of its own ambition here and there. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I get that the creator did want to make that kind of story here and there. But there are sometimes some concessions that one does need to make in creation here and there. Legit, if you do something that puts off a lot of your workforce, unless your workforce are incredibly petty, selfish, and whatnot, that is more on you than it is on them. And again, I'm not going to act like I know the full story here and there, and as Teal has alluded, there might be a bit more to it. But I'm not really one to blame them for moving out on this game because I am really starting to get that this game really just like to religion bash, and some of it, does have a purpose. Others just seem like it's to fill out the usual Japanese quota of religion bad, smash it up, screw whoever likes it, essentially. That has legit been kind of a really big thing in some Japanese games.
Mm-hmm. It's like, for me, it's one of those. I will also argue it has to do with the fact that Japan is the most secular country in the world as well. So I will say this: if I bend from my place and refuse to serve anybody that I remotely dislike, like it would be it would be I would have lose so much business as a result of it. It's just one of those cases where, again, it's like that saying goes, like friendships are one thing, business are a separate thing. I will argue it's also one of those things where sometimes you have to suck up some stuff here and there, you know.
Anyway, let me sum up a bit what we just learned. Again, don't worry, the dialogue is something that I can sum up with it. What the important thing that he mentioned is that, as a nod to Chrono Trigger and for another religious reference, there were 3 sages from Shevat called Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. And as we know, Balthazar was actually Old Man Bal, the guy in the cave, who were specialized in nanomachines, or at least, as far as they could have. And Krelian was apparently one of their apprentices, and originally was a land dweller before, being integrated into Solaris. Keep that in mind, because it will become important also for later. Basically, continue.
On the note of supposedly sucking it up, another aspect we do have to remember is what Richard himself admitted, though, that even he was starting to get a lot of, okay, maybe this is going too far vibes, and he even admits that had he, tackled the script when he was more experienced than he was back in the day, he might have had a lot more reservations than he did beforehand.
Actually, from they interpreted that phrase that he mentioned. If I knew back then what I know now, it would be a different game. I always interpreted of characters would have this amount of accent that reflect their personality. Because that's usually what he does.
Well, he was talking in terms of the whole religion thing as well, which he did admit apparently was even a bit of a strain on him.
No, he mostly talks about his own inexperience as a translator in general.
Well, remember, he did also mention about how
that was before. The context of the phrase "if I knew back then what I know now" is referred to his own inexperience as a translator in general. That's usually what has changed, because if you look at the games that he has translated ever since, if they had to at least brush off some kind of theming similar to this, he doesn't really censor that.
Well, he does mention about how he was grappling with, how much of this religion stuff should I keep in full straight, and how much should I keep it, there in Baron. Now, mind you, I have nothing against, critiquing religions here and there. Like, some religions can appear to be very messed up, and I don't mind if you call them out for it. That's being said, though, again, unless it's like an absolutely horrendous religion that's like, oh, you have to sacrifice this person every now and then, or if it's something that is actively detrimental to a certain other bout of people just for, having a different belief, then, again, if it's a religion that's technically not really hurting most other people, then, yeah, the whole religion bashing thing is kind of overboard here and there.
Again, Jova, trust me, you're also missing a huge part of the context of this game. So keep that in mind for later. Go on, Shiro.
Like this, because again, we are used to this in this genre at this point. But this game, just like the story in particular, just said, oh, I know, every bad thing that people say about religion or is confirmed throughout different religions, let's just shove it all in one bubble and apply it to this. It's like, it's a horrendous over-exaggeration, I feel. And that's where the problem comes from. And about what you said, yes, we are missing some context. I know we're not at the end of the game yet. My problem with that is, even if the context does help a little bit, we've gone on this for so long. Like, they're leaving this for near endgame. It's like, I could understand if people would have hopped off the train before this point. Because it's like, it's too little too late, I would argue.
I definitely get what Shuri means. Being a JRPG, it does hold the side effect of being a pretty lengthy experience. Not always a bad thing. However, the longer you go on with a certain plot point, the more you are definitely asking of your audience here and there. And when your game feels like it's taking forever to get to its message, like a certain Final Fantasy game does, don't blame people if they jump off because things feel like they're getting dicey here and there. Like,
so 7 then, I'm kidding.
So here's the thing though, I wouldn't mind, obviously, some of the religions being evil if they would at least just have some of the religions be good, or go into the nuance of the fact that this was a good religion at base, but people corrupted it. Instead, it just seems to go, nope, religion was evil, what you believed in was fake, you should have just held on to these other beliefs, the church is evil, go home, done. And yes, there is probably some context here and there, but if there's one thing that we have all said at some point with this game is that this game can sometimes take its time to get to its messages here and there, and that can sometimes come to a detriment. Mind you.
Especially when they make such a big deal about the reveals, like certain characters going through some existential crisis and they make a big deal out of it, and then getting context later that may or may not, water all that down. And it's like, I feel like that's bad on the story, honestly.
You're finally here. Where have you been? Why are you here?
As for the writers, by the way, I do blame Square for the overall process of this.
Me
I
too.
learned martial arts with your father in Shevat. The queen is waiting. Go ahead.
I wonder if his father was also from here, maybe.
He mentioned that in the encounter in Kislev, Jova.
I know. It's just that it feels like that's a little callback to it.
Alright, let's talk to the queen, why not?
Alright then. Oh good, the choir came just as prepared. Thank you for coming such a long way. I am the Queen of Shevat, Zephyr.
Your Majesty, you're the...
Yes, I'm the queen. That is what the title is for. I may appear to be like this, but I am actually 522 years old.
Of course you are.
Of course.
Nanomachines. 522? Is that really possible?
Are you really questioning it at this point? Yes.
Also, not nanomachines, Tio. Anime.
I and a select few of the vassals have undergone some special life-extending treatments. We were required to continue living until that final day approaches because of one man. To continue living, this is our atonement for that tragedy 500 years ago.
I don't know, it sounds like you're getting the better deal out of it. Everyone else is dead, you're alive.
Trust me, Dwibs, elongated life is not all it sounds to be crap. Well,
No.
Okay, it depends.
No, quite often garbage.
Yeah, it really does depend. To keep an eye on the man's activities. Also, he was ordered to bring anyone from the surface who would be of help to us at Shevat. 500 years ago, we fought against Solaris, and even after that, we continued to resist Solaris, although we are short of any real power. Land dwellers, can you find it in your heart to help us?
No.
We must free mankind from the grasps of Solaris. We must gain true freedom and build a peaceful world to live in.
And build a peaceful world.
Yep. But there's no guarantee that you are in the same as Solaris, right? Even if Solaris were to be defeated, the people of the Serpent may just as well encounter a new dominator.
Yeah, well, what do you know about peace? You can't even spell peace right.
However, I tell no lie when I say we are doing this purely for the future of the land dwellers. And if you still cannot believe us, then defeat Solaris, gain back the independence of the land dwellers, and then see if we still embrace the heavens together. It should do you some good if you rest in the palace and think about it. You must think about what you ought to do. But remember, Solaris has been quite active lately, and we don't have much time for leisure. As for you, Ellie, your family and friends, you must understand that they will all have to be your enemies. Without this clear understanding, you may be placing your companions in a situation where it may cost them their lives.
Yes, I understand.
Most of my family and friends are dead anyway. Very well then. Now go and get some rest.
Hey, what about the doctor? Does he get any lectures?
So,
She's done later, Dweebs.
have
Don't
you
worry.
decided?
Alright. What was that shaking all about?
You do the okey dokey. Your Majesty!
Oh?
Was that enemy?
Good.
Your Majesty, something dreadful
Yeah.
is...
What's the meaning of this?
Yes, that is... We have an intruder in the dock area. The gate generator has been destroyed.
Oh, again?
What?
What's the damage report?
It's been destroyed, I just said that. Yes, subsystems are destroyed. Gate generation has dropped 70% from normal. We're devoting everything to firefighting and repairs. It will still take some time.
What of the intruder?
Yes, we believe it's just a lone Gebler soldier. It seems the individual has escaped the number 17 hangar. Number 17 hangar bay? Sipesen!
Maria, wait! It is too dangerous to go by yourself.
But Captain said the spy be... Your Majesty, we have our hands full just trying to fight the fire on the shield generator. If someone doesn't do something, it's possible we'll have more losses. I'll be fine. I can go it alone.
Maria, what can you do now that you don't when you don't even have Sibzen?
Then should we go down with Maria? It's the Gabler, right? I'm still ticked off at them. I'll take it on.
Is it fun with you, Faye? Please take care of Maria. Be careful out there.
Then let's get going, Maria.
Sure, whatever. Then let's all go together. Yeah, you just said that. This may be asking for too much. Would it be possible to have one of you stay behind with the Queen? We do not have the combat experience, and if something ever happened to the Queen...
Right. Change out our party.
Alright, I got it. Then one of us should stay behind. Fucking hippies. Who do I leave here?
Cheetan! If she gets injured, then Cheetan can help her heal.
I'm curious, do you get different
Yeah,
dialogue
let's leave the
options
dog.
depending on who you leave in a possible
No,
different
not
cutscene?
really.
Ah.
No.
So it's
Don't worry,
basically-
by the end of this dungeon, the rest of the party will also join you. So let's... Okay, let me explain this. Maria is your next party member. She sucks.
Oh dear.
Like, it's even in story reason, because...
You too, then.
One of the few characters actually doesn't have any kind of death blow skill, so her physical attacks are completely useless. If her abilities are just calling Sibzen no matter where you are, which provides some gameplay and story segregation, mind you, and to match it all, her actual combat sprite looks nothing like her field sprite, as you will be able to see in a few minutes. I'm sorry to say, Sibzen is actually a great gear, probably one of the best that you get, particularly, for the late part of the game. But I'm sorry, I fairly would have traded her role with Margie, or at least combine in some kind of fashion, because it's in the state of that the character is right now, she's one of those party members you really don't want to have you tag along with.
Also, I love how she does the Naruto run in the overfield.
Yeah, so she does. Again, don't get me wrong, her backstory in itself is not really bad. It technically starts with what Jesse tells you, back on the Yggdrasil. But it continues here on Shevat. However, after this, Maria will just be another party member just standing there in a corner, kind of like Rico, and occasionally having a line or two mentioning. So again, if we needed to sacrifice that kind of thing for having an extra party member, I gladly would have rather had Margie and having her integrated a bit better, maybe say that it's Sibzen is actually something that gets gifted to her or some kind. I don't know. I get the idea. This could have been easily worked better, but
Is it a matter of, say, the fact that Margie's gameplay sounded better on paper from what we have?
Did someone say Metroid Fusion?
The shutter is closed.
Isn't there another way to go down to the hangar?
We may be able to go down if we use the emergency shaft, but it's not normally used.
Excuse for a dungeon, got it.
Basically, I don't care. We can't waste time here anyway. Pedro, go ahead.
You're right. They won't wait for us.
I see. The entrance to the shaft is just above here.
All right. There it is. Translation. Aside from being a dungeon, hold on.
This is it. We can go down by entering the shaft from here.
Fine. Then let's go.
Just a typical day
Basically-
for you, eh, Faye?
Yeah.
So this works kind of like the elevator in Dragon's Lair, where you can't just go straight to the floor where the dragon
again,
is. You have to go into a very specific order of the
The
floors
first
you go
thing you
to.
get, by the way, it's another map. Again, much like with the sewer. Sorry, go on.
All levels towards the shaft. You can use it once so we can get down to the floor several levels below here.
Much like with the sewers in Kislev, this should be your warning that this kind of dungeon is a bit labyrinthic. And yes, apparently Shevat's air ducts are crawling with fucking monsters.
Okay, look, I
By
get
the way, yes, that's Maria's combat sprite. It's just
Wait, let me...
no.
It looks nothing like it should.
Okay, she has a derpy expression. Her dress is colored red instead of orange, and she has that. I guess comical is supposed to be battle stance.
She looks like
It's not even just that. It's not even just that, Tail. Compare it to the artwork. Like, the hair doesn't look is the wrong color. The dress is
the wrong color.
Like,
Again.
seriously, did the person who made this sprite even look at the drawing?
She looks like a pretty pure dreadlocks.
And as you can see, she really sucks in combat. Essentially, this dungeon exists to put you as basically a handicap by having you effectively too effectively good using, playable characters better to score Maria. Don't get me wrong. Again, her Ifra ability, calling Sibzen, are actually useful. But they do consume, your MPs, of course. And there's, like you mentioned, the aforementioned, gameplay and story segregation. Because, again, you have to remember, we're currently in the air duct of Shevat itself, and Maria cannot access to Sibzen right now, So
Wow,
basically, she can still call the gear, as you will see later, because I will showcase her ability. She can call her gear at any place at any moment. I know that you're supposed to have a suspension of disbelief, kind of like, say, a Final Fantasy summon entering a room, from the ceiling or something like that. But story reason dictates that she could not be able to actually use the robot, and instead she can.
So from what I can understand, Maria's the closest thing this game has to a joke character when it comes to on-foot gameplay.
I guess it's supposed to be. Trust me,
Wait,
Drova.
wait. The duct has a stairway in it? Why
Yes,
does
it's
the air
several
duct have a
stairways.
Look at
stairway
that.
in it?
See, look at that. How hard would it have been to make a more animated version of this sprite that she uses
That's
using
the thing,
field?
Pedro. All the other characters have their battle sprites identical to the field sprite. I don't really know what happened here. And as for telling you, Jova, we will actually have the joke character actually in the next part, one that is intentional. So no, I really don't understand what was the Maria feels very either unfinished or intentionally badly designed. Like I said, if the trade-off for having Margie would have been sacrificing Maria entirely, yes, please, every minute. Thank you.
I'm wondering, did they intentionally make Maria weak like this to?
Yes, again, the story reason dictates that she's a child with no combat expertise, but she's good at piloting Sibzen, the trade-off being that while sucking for the field combat, she actually has one of the best gears in the game.
So essentially, she's great in gear gameplay, terrible on foot gameplay.
Basically, yes.
I mean, I'm not
And
sure.
mind you, this is the introductory dungeon with her, so it's leaving probably a bad impression to the players. That's also the impact that I mean. Sure, we had the fight against her, at the top of Babel's tower to give an idea how she plays, in her gear. But the player doesn't know that she becomes a party member.
Not only that, but I mean, okay, look. Is making the trade-off for, her game bling so good with the gear, making her so bad in the overfield really worth it? Think about it, Michael. It's not like a case where you're constantly switching back between on-footing gear gameplay here and there. So technically, if somebody wanted to, if say there's a segment where they're mainly doing gear stuff, just switch to her. Then when you're doing on-foot stuff, it may take a while, but then just switch back here. And yes, she can literally summon the gear for her super move. And yeah, I get it, gameplay story segregation, but that just feels all the more teasing that the gear can literally come in the air duct here and there. Especially again with how serious the story's been overall, yet suddenly now we have the humorous character in her.
Okay, that itself is not really humorous, the idea that she can summon the gear any moment. Again, the only real humorous thing is probably her battle stance for this sequence. Again, Java, we will add technically the joke character in the next part, and I will be able to talk
That's just the
about
thing.
that.
Everything about her gameplay seems more geared to comedy than actual seriousness.
And it's not, if that is supposed to be what actually comes across, it's not completely the intention, because I can assure you that the entirety of her backstory is completely 100% serious with no traces of comedy in it.
And I get it, story-wise, she's technically weak as a girl, so fine, but I find it weird that now they choose to go for realism, given all the crazy stuff that other characters can do on foot here and there, regardless of stature or age.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best way to put it is that it feels weirdly inconsistent with how the game has been up to this point, essentially. And it can really, like you said, catch a player off guard in the worst way possible and really make her a gameplay scrappy in the eyes of many.
Like I mentioned, I think early on, I will make sure to showcase each character at the best of their strength as the story goes along. So again, Maria also will get their chance to shine in places outside where the story mode mandates her.
I was actually going to ask, is it possible to, strengthen Maria to the point where she's a powerhouse even in the on-field?
Not for field combat, no.
Oh, so...
Oh. Again, I guess theoretically you can use the drive booster to max out their stats, but at that point you might as well just use them on a character that's already more proficient like Cheetan.
Yeah. See, the reason that sprite looks so off is because if you take a look at the illustrations, the actual artwork, it's really good. Maria's design is really good, and that sprite is so bad.
Again. Look at that animation of her getting her head stuck in the ground and struggling to get up. It screams like comedy. Or I get it. Maybe it's supposed to show that she's more frail and whatnot. But again, with the fact that she has a different animation style and everything, it just feels geared towards comedy. And again, like you mentioned, her backstory is serious, so I really have to wonder what went on with this character.
For all these years, people have viewed my life as a tragedy, but now I see it as a comedy.
Okay,
sure.
Okay, if the twist is that Maria goes insane and becomes the final bad guy of this game, that might actually make it worth it.
That might happen in something made by Nice America, probably. No such cases here.
There's a point where we go to the queen's throne and suddenly Maria stabbed the queen with a knife.
Alright, the game through Maria just suggested me to use the map. Let's take a look.
What the heck?
Wow, so it's that kind of map. Gotcha.
Again, much like it showcases me where I am, to be fair, and combined with the compass, it is relatively useful. But again, much like with the Kislev sewers, again, it can be intimidating to someone who at this point hasn't properly mastered the orientation with the compass.
It is
this hot garbage. I'm sorry.
Not just that, Shiroi. How about the fact that it's missing the most important thing in a map in a game like this? A destination marker.
Okay. Look, I'm just gonna say this. I don't know where I am in relation to my destiny, though. I'm just gonna say this. Link to the Past wipes its ass map-wise with this game, and that game came out on the SNES. This is the PlayStation. I'm sure they could have done better with the map. Remind me, too. Was this, Go ahead.
No, also, I would understand that, Pedro, if these had, 8 separate exit points and maybe we're connected to each other, but this is only 3. So at worst, you literally go through process of elimination until you reach the one you need. Sure, it might be intimidating, but it is not that long, and the only thing you have to contend with are the random encounters.
I get that too, but that and the fact that you, like yourself said, process of elimination, that should be eliminated from the design document altogether because that's not skill based. Okay, remind me, Teo. Was this, if I remember correctly, this was Takahashi's first directorial effort, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can tell.
And you know what? Props to the guy. Definitely had a lot of ambition, but I'm getting the feeling he may not have had the best idea how to control it all. That being said, though, Teo, I do recall in the first part of this playthrough you mentioned that originally he wanted for this to actually be a series of games.
Yeah, part 0. But yes, this was supposed to be like I said, the central piece of an epic. It will become apparent with the end credits. So I will not disclose more until then.
Okay. This isn't a spoilery question, but I'll ask this: would you say that the remnants of the idea of this being a franchise still lingered on, or would you say he was able to edit the story enough so that it at least felt like, its own proper story without needing to be continued?
Yes and no. It's okay. Infamously, this 2 is the one, like I said, gets butchered the most because of the constraints, and you will be able to see the effects in full force once we get there. So there's a lot of information, unfortunately, has been cut away. Also, Big Joe, what are you doing here?
How? Wait, they probably picked him up, didn't they?
That door just won't open. This is no good. Even Big Joe here has given up.
Well, crap.
So, is this the end of his arc then?
It won't open.
Can't you punch the door open or something?
I'm sure it's gonna be fine.
How did he get here?
Again, Shiro, it's kind of a not recurring thing, but a couple of JRPGs love to have these Musketeers mechanic of having this character who, for inexplicable reasons, manages to follow you in every dungeon, and you don't really understand how we're capable of doing that, but we just do.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if
it's more of a joke than anything, which does fit the character of Big Joe.
If I understand,
we can punch out. Sorry.
My guess is that Ellie, what are you doing?
Ellie. Oh, thank God.
Okay.
Open the door, damn it!
Well, we didn't have to. You just popped in through existence. But no. My theory is that Shevat probably picked him up because they mentioned about how they've been picking up people who are, refugees from war and whatnot. So maybe Big Joe just happened to get picked up, alien stealing cow style.
Okay, it's never confirmed actually in game, but it's strongly implied that he has the ability of teleporting. So there's one of your answers. But again, I want to save the entirety of what they did cut away that was supposed to be Big Joe's backstory for the last encounter that we have with him.
Oh,
yeah,
that wasn't the last one.
No.
Keep surprising us.
Again, Jova, through the course of the entire game. And there you go, we managed to open the door.
Isn't he?
I'm thinking about life, so leave me alone.
Dude, we opened the door. You can be free now.
This is not the time to have an existential crisis. There are better environments for that.
It's one of those doors, like in Dark Souls, that can only be opened by the other side.
Then why doesn't he leave when we leave?
and just like with that, we can destroy giant monsters with our weapons, or in this case, fists. But we can't punch our way through this door, it seems.
I do think it would have
Faye is very considerate.
I do think it probably would have been better if the game had mentioned this as being a hidden passageway as opposed to being the air ducts, apparently, because as far as air ducts go, this seems way too big to be air ducts, to the point where they literally have a staircase.
You have to remember, this place was constructed still by Solaris. It only decided to become independent by them. So what we're dealing with is architecture made by Solarians, which would match their stupidity,
Ellie,
basically.
Again? Really?
Not Ellie. Well, okay.
Ellie, we need to talk about doors,
And how you pop in from existence here and there.
Yeah. Hey, Teo, maybe... Well, who knows, Teo? Maybe it was an air duct made by the same guy who made that air duct in No Country for Old Men where Llewellyn puts in the suitcase. I don't know.
She reacts
still-
to dolls like Glam Rock Freddy does.
So what exactly are we fighting here? Minotaurs with rocking feet?
These are called gimmicks. Yeah, get it? The gimmick with that is that they only take 1 damage but very low HP, which technically comes in favor of Maria. If you only spam triangle moves with her, since she only has a 6, as you can see, she has actually 6, like everyone else. You will be able to defeat them pretty easily because you will deplete all their HP. Instead of basically you're wasting your death blows on them if you actually bother to do them because you only do 1 damage to them.
So what you're saying is that Maria actually does have a use in this dungeon.
It's more like the dungeon tries to compensate the idea of having Maria with some of the enemies being more susceptible to her. So the game is not completely punishing you for this condition, but it's still not an ideal outcome, and basically at any point, basically it makes Maria again completely useless for the non-gear section. The good news is that as the game progresses, you will have more gear-oriented section than on foot section, but that's really not solving the problem in itself, obviously.
I gotta say, this is definitely a game that really does make me question a lot of decisions made. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that I really gotta know what was going through the creator's mind for this game, because some of these decisions are just mind-blowing. Gameplay-wise.
I want to remind also what I mentioned in part 0, the fact that the team was mostly composed by newbies. For a lot of people, this was literally their first work.
That's basically my diagnosis, Jova. Lack of experience.
Probably. They
And
probably
again,
thought about
it's
how
still-
cool it would be if this
despite
did
that,
apply
it's still
story-wise.
despite that, it's still so impressive what they managed to come up with, both for presentation and the actual gameplay. Again, Marie's pride notwithstanding, but again, for being more than halfway through, hers is only the first major problem that I found in terms of a presentation when it comes to the actual sprites. There is obviously what we have been encountering since part 1, the overabundance of flashing light, which sadly was more of an custom of both gear-oriented media, apparently for mech-oriented media, and for JRPGs. By the time we're recording this, I did watch just for funsies, some call me Johnny's review of Final Fantasy VI, and yeah, I forgot how that one also loves to use flashing lights. But I'm pretty confident that a lot of other cases did both for the Super Nintendo and PlayStation eras. I get the idea that it might have been a case where on a CRTV, they weren't as impactful as being viewing on a flat screen or for an HD format. I don't know. Or it was a thing that Japan was more tolerating because, if you remember, there was even the entire gap with The Simpsons where they accidentally tune into Japanese television and they get seizure, basically.
You do have a good point, though, that some resolution tricks worked better with older TVs than they do, with newer ones, essentially. Ace Attorney is actually a very good example. Not necessarily with TVs, but it showed that, when you put the HD version on a smaller screen like the 3DS as opposed to, on a big TV, it actually looked better. I mean, still paled in comparison to the original DS sprites, but man, the improvement was truly staggering when you put it on a smaller screen.
Also, more platforming. This is now TikTok clock, apparently. Jesus Christ.
So what happens if you fall off of these?
You don't get damage, but you have to basically get back on the floor. It's not as punishing as Babel's Tower, don't worry, but you need to make your platforming work, basically.
It's not even just that, Joe. Like, while that is a factor, the primary concern for me is the terrible decisions on the art director of those ports. To be honest with you, I'm a very big appreciator of art direction myself, and I'm not even kidding you. If I was the man in charge of that porting team and that guy presented me those sprites, I would be like, "You're joking, right?"
Oh, definitely.
Okay, now give me the real sprites that you made.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. As my grumbling suggested, the sprites themselves were still a problem, but another problem was trying to beam that onto a high-definition TV and expecting people to like that. Spoilers, they didn't.
It's because of the lack of texture on the sprite work. Like they look like fucking Newgrounds Flash sprites.
Like, there's a
You know?
reason that I still intended on using the original DS versions for our commentaries, and I will
Oh, no,
continue to
definitely.
do that even for our investigations commentary as well. I mean,
Which begs the question. Well, hold on. Are the mobile ports of the investigation zoology also porked?
well, okay, how do I put it like this?
Hold on.
Yeah, we're actually about to confront finally
Build it
the.
into
Alright,
the
then.
hangar.
Basically, now we're finally reaching the anger from this, which we remember this was supposed to be the shortcut. Again, it's very similar to that sequence in Metroid Fusion where Samus has to do that.
Yeah. It's funny how the quote unquote shortcut sometimes feels longer than the actual way.
Nope, this doesn't work either. Nah, no, not this one too. What you're supposed to do is to enter the door. There you go. That leads you to Sibzen. So let's get to know who is this mysterious infiltrator from Gabbler.
If they
Uh,
all back, you need
Cena.
to do a step
Da,
on their
da, da,
ponytail.
da.
Hammer?
Where's the intruder?
No, I'm still on the Yggdrasil. Go ahead, Jova.
It's you again. You pests aren't making my job any easier.
It works fine because again, not yet revealed. It's Domina. Davinia, sorry.
Dominia? Is that you?
Yes, it is me!
Austin.
Never thought I'd come across Sibzen in my place of escape.
Ways of escape? I think you could have phrased that better, honey.
Yeah.
I'll take Sibzen.
I think she meant extraction point.
Originally, this belonged to us, Solaris.
Dominia, I can't let you have the gear.
I don't see your name on it.
I love how Ellie's more like a concerned parent. Dominia, please get your hands off the gear. Come on.
What did I
Fool.
tell you, child?
Well, okay. To be fair, it's more so because of the way she read that line. I'm pretty sure the intent is to be, Dominia, I can't let you have that gear. I'm pretty sure that's the...
No,
I'm gonna be a mother
just
here.
joking.
I-
Anyway, she mentioned about Nikolai, the scientist that worked.
I'm the daughter of Nikolai, Maria Balthazar.
And I'm gonna
Got
kick
it.
your ass.
Basically.
I see. So you're his beloved daughter to whom he offered himself to undertake that difficult task.
Oh, that was a mouthful.
Hey, young girl, want to hear an interesting story? Let's see, how about the cursed secret of Sibzen?
I'm too old for story time.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? You'll understand it when you hear the story. Now sit down and listen, children.
Now who's the mother?
For the past several decades, our scientists have put so much effort into the research of gears, regardless of how great the piloted one is. As long as it is human, there will always exist a time lag in human error interfacing with a machine. Oh, it's Skype.
Basically.
That's when your father, Nikolai, was targeted. He was a genius in the field of cranial ways of the mechanism. They made Nikolai search for a way for humans to go beyond humans. In other words, they were trying to create a new life, an ultimate living weapon, by connecting the living human brain to the gear. It would have stayed a mere fantasy without Nikolai, but that genius made the fantasy come true.
We made the ultimate life
That's
form.
why. My father wouldn't do such a horrible thing.
I don't lie, Maria. This is
Search
the
your
truth.
feelings, you know it's true, blah blah blah.
Your splendid father succeeded. He opened the gates to hell for the lambs.
So basically, go on, I'll mention after. Oh,
Again, the
As a
rays of
matter
light.
of fact, various data and components obtained from the war in Ignis and the battling in Kislev fueled our research, and that is how the special humanoid mutants, Wells, were born. Only the Wells that passed the test were dismantled, restructured, and reborn. They became the gear's central control circuit and became part of the machine. It's all the result of your
Machines.
father's great research. Sibzen is a prototype of man-machine fusion gear. In other words, Sibzen was completed at the cost of innumerable land dwellers' lives, and in the nerve circuit of
Yo,
Sibzen
don't
lies.
think you take enough domain here.
Who is it?
Jesse, to the rescue. Why are women so gossipy?
Excuse me, you're ruining my
They
moment.
chatter about things I shouldn't be talking about. Hopeless. Wow.
Josiah! You! Stop getting in on my moment here! What are you doing in Shevat? At one
Also
point...
complaining that I talk too much, you should be more concerned with not talking enough to your child.
Yeah.
True.
Don't get so excited. I think you played with enough fire for today. Just go home. Maria is the only one who can operate Southern.
But I'm not even the fire elemental.
You should be well aware of that.
Fools!
She's gonna try.
Don't get so cocky! The party's just begun! But I guess it's alright. My mission is complete. So all that's left is... Maria, I'm afraid I must go now. Enjoy your party. Ta-ta!
Wait! Davinia! Also, I had a line next to say yay.
Yay!
And you nailed that line, Faye. You nailed it.
Here's a cookie.
Hey, Maria, don't mind what she told you.
We've all had soul-crushing crafts.
So basically, this plot is basically...
What? This is...
It seems that the running theme is that every playable character has to have something messed up with their past or heritage.
Looks like our guests have arrived. Let's go upstairs. The Yggdrasil is also accommodating the dock.
Okay.
I'm sure the other guys are making a fuss over it. I have an ominous premonition.
When do you not?
I doubt it, but they could have.
That alarm is obnoxious.
I mean, I guess it's doing its job. And we had with an ominous shot of Simon.
Ipsen.
Sure, what better way to drive the criminal away than to annoy him to beyond belief?
But seriously,
So basically, this backstory of Sibzen is basically the plot of Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Just replace dinosaurs with gears, and there you go. It's basically
We
the
will
same
learn more about that also in the next part as well.
So like I mentioned, it seems that every playable character has it in their contract. You have to have something incredibly messed up about yourself, your past, and or your family heritage. Have fun, kids!
Basically.
So tune in for the next part of Cadillacs and Gears.
See ya.
See ya.
Ta-ta. All
More
right,
like
then.
Bionic Gears by the next part, but you'll be able to see.
Would you say Bionic Commando in Gears?